Advantage 1. Despite no first use, India and Pakistan are considering a first try because of future counter-first capability, according to 19. Indian Defense Minister wrote India's adhere to no first use, but the future bounds on circumstance. India's counter-first capability gave option target Pakistan's nuclear force. India's in building accurate missiles in large numbers, also improving its ability to monitor Pakistan's nuclear force and nuclear capabilities. Give the way to temptations to destroy Pakistan's entire nuclear arsenal once who are real to strike. Indian officials have been arguing greater flex nuclear trial. Both India and Pakistan have mostly more than go first and massively. Next, hypersonic star just successfully tested Leah 19. India's hypersonic development organization launched a hypersonic status layer private security agency called Brahmos in joint venture with Moscow is developing hypersonic get ready in 2023. Next, the status quo is unique, new imbalances, uncertainty, arms race, and international actors can't check. And McDonald 19. A suicide car bomb India retaliated this week with airstrikes deep in Pakistan. Was the first air powered by one nuclear arm powered against another. These are uncharted waters. Western countries powered by a crisis that combines two new unpredictable elements. One missing, raise the stakes and built by Western countries too. Intervening equilibrium has disappeared. Modi declared the greatest future was no longer worth tolerating attacks. Pakistan is no longer still weapons protected from retaliation. If the U.S. lost credibility, allowed to end previous crises. China retaliation is more afraid. Britain is by Brexit. The U.S. is seeking Pakistan's support for peace with the Taliban, limiting its willingness for the pressure is all about. Pakistan is developing battlefield nuclear weapons. Their development lowers threshold for use of nuclear weapons. The Pakistan government is struggling to stabilize the economy. Next, idealism and ethical purity for Pakistan. They've embraced ethical realism on Section 15. Pakistan's decision maker has been supported. Measure gained complete advantage. Pakistan is all much to pursue and enhance its own nuclear ability from helping not arrive. Pakistan's inferior in attempts to reapproach Pakistan calibrated the strategic maneuver to the from India deals in line with realism as the deal will as exists. Next, same goes for India. 18. Realism has been so pronounced in India that the region has been viewed largely concepts of near-realism, Rana and means as some more theoretical basis of state-centric realism. Next. Even limited nuclear weapon kills hundreds of millions in 1 week between all 19. Even one nuclear weapon explosion to a great deal of damage with a 50 million kills on Airbus can kill 700,000 people, 100 kills on Airbus, roughly 2 million fatalities because the Jets population war with 50 kills on air weapons can be fatalities going to war with 2 war with 100 kills on weapons a war with 100 kills on weapons can kill 2.5 times as many fatalities could occur in a single week. Next event. Major retaliatory strikes are national and Pakistan's inability to counter Indian army makes it nuclear escalation from terrorist attacks inevitable. IUB 18. Attacks provide justification for India's nationalists to put pressure on Indian government. Indian military response. Indian retaliatory attacks targeting not only terrorist bases but also Pakistani military facilities. The escalation terrorist attack made the situation perilous. Delhi was already launched a major retaliatory attack against targets in Pakistan. A judge terrorist attack in military camps. The Indian army destroyed Pakistan military. What the tip for that is reaching these rewards to the Pakistani military downplay the Indian attacks. And Indians struggle to push Pakistani military to retaliate and force Pakistan able to counter superior Indian federal forces will be a short to battlefield nuclear weapons. India will massively retaliate. Next, Pakistani terrorists can actually control Pakistan's nuclear weapons. Hold 18. Wrote the involved plan joining with 6 militants to hijack the ship. It took their routes to gain control of the ship. The audacity of bullet attacks that were the most heavily secured naval facilities in Pakistan was drawing enough Al-Qaeda products. The Delhi Demaz matters. 5 more naval officers and implicated were later arrested. The incident in a long string of security breaches, including attacks on nuclear facilities, Pakistan preventing the army submarines and ships with the news between terrorists could get their hands on weapons. Next, Indian nuclear terrorism is possible too. One of the previous thefts and low security law and allow even attempts to escalate. Taking 16, India's terrorist attacks on nuclear facilities or the theft of nuclear materials to create a bomb. Bark in Mumbai houses India's weaponry position. The attack on Bark would constitute aggression like in 2002 and 2008. The crisis escalate rapidly. Terrorists suspect in connection with the Mumbai tree bombs driven by eyes together. Committed reconnaissance on Bark in 2008. Mumbai terror attacks including reconnaissance of Bark reports of verified January stolen uranium. Now plan. The Republican and Southern Republic of Pakistan to eliminate the nuclear arsenal. It means to eliminate any nuclear terror. The chances. Quad all 18. Quad all 18. Rationale is not guaranteed. The leaders will not use deterrence not rights grounds to escalate the confidence of nuclear superiority. Dominance causing the retaliatory deterrence capability. Recent violations taken about this aggressive stance with miscalculated the number of other factors such as crisis management to help avoid a nuclear catastrophe at the time. Reveal cannot be considered representative of huge crisis in a security climate such as South Asia. The only solution is the complete abolition of nuclear weapons until this arms. The only effective way to ensure non-use of nuclear weapons. It is quickly New Delhi is all about signing all discriminatory nuclear restraint regime essential to establish new common civilian measures and arbitrary agreements to be encouraged. Now, framework. The standards to maximize expected well-being is key for debates about nuclear arsenal and Shah 4. Nuclear policy because of the complex factual issues, number of versus affected Christ have to be handled in consequential terms, namely geontological discussions about integrate factual issues, the probability such as the chances of accidents, hangs of the real, we kill historical and political consequences of deterrence, prolif and alternatives to arms, that was particularly the most often assumed as usual when discussing deterrence of damage to prolif. Further, additionally for active spec, aggregation, every cause benefits some and harms others, which means that secretaries freeze action. Now, endorsing material solutions to problems not commensurate with reaction to the catch-up forces, ideal analysis, decal from material action, because often self-serving ideological circulation to attack in the nature of by 12. Questions about religion relies on how to best deploy resources in fighting the state war machine to defeat rights of the race and sex and capitalism, the neoliberalism. And what I've heard is a clean deficit of military logistics. The people on the other hand say this is horrible. It doesn't go very far. The entire point is map supply lines, so we can strategically defeat and destroy them. We see your social strategy can be outlawed to create. There seems to be no increased war machine without changing. We might even persuade others to leave on these ideologies and yet they adhere to it. There are other causal factors that under these assemblages that during the ideology is one component. Immediately said this is the only causal factor, not to reject your political aims. Let's say these are all good things to intervene in. I'm rejecting your tendency to hammer solve problems. Let's see all problems as a nil. Discover problems, hard change social order involving intervening. Those material numbers, none of this is possible without good mapping of the terrain. Next, this is key to end colonial mobilization. In 2018, delegates together the nuclear weapons starting for human rights and child was imperative. Many of the cities supporting the treaty have a majority. Not my population takes the majority. Not my population have actively advocate for nuclear disarmament, nuclearization, the fight of racial equality, and liberation movements. If you have nuclear testing and nuclear measures to unite and conquer the people caught being the victim of environmentalism and nuclear colonialism.
Cross?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. When is nuclear war going to happen?
Sure, so we isolate 2023 as when we would see the critical mass of hypersonic weapons.
Okay, great. So 2023, explain how you
In the first advantage.
Introducing this affirmative now is supposed to solve that.
Sure, so we say that hypersonics are being developed right now, and every moment between now and then is when India becomes more and more confident in its ability to first strike Pakistan.
But like, what is you standing here reading this affirmative do to resolve the nuclear war coming?
Fiat is illusory and debate is a game. I think that the process of us researching these positions is a good method.
Oh, okay. So it's just pure research. Okay, why is the ballot good? Why should the ballot affirm your research?
I think the ballot should vote for whoever the better debater is, and the better debater should be defined as whoever upholds the resolution the best. Or it could be another thing. Up to you. I haven't read any role of the ballot text yet.
Okay, cool. So is the impact of the app just it kills millions? Is there an extinction scenario or anything?
Yes, it kills millions.
Okay, that's it. It kills millions. Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit more about your Intondi evidence. I think it's either Intondi or the Chauvin or the Bryant evidence, which talks about how you got dismantle white supremacy. So why does the affirmative only target brown countries to dismantle nuclear arsenals?
Because I'm Indian and I have family in India. I care about what happens in India.
Yeah, but like,
so
what does that do
about India?
What does that do against white supremacy?
But sure, we're saying that I argue that Modi is like a very hyper-nationalist leader, and the state war machine is very much active and alive under Modi. I think that his form of nationalism is incredibly bad, and we should oppose it.
Modi's bad, but again, what does that do about white supremacy?
But sure, so it was a question of like ideological critique versus actually taking material action. We were saying that in order to like fight like white supremacy in the context of the United States, you would have to attack the actual like things that uphold white supremacy instead of just criticizing those institutions which exist that cause white supremacy.
And
again, in the context of America, we say that this translates over to India in terms of Modi's nationalism.
So let me just get this straight. Is the app saying that India and Pakistan must remove their nuclear arsenals because they can't be trusted with them, right?
No. They should eliminate their nuclear arsenals because they are very unstable, and India wants to first strike Pakistan right now. I think that India first striking Pakistan would be a very bad idea, and the best way to combat that is to prevent India from having the idea that they can end the war quickly through the use of nuclear weapons.
Interesting. Again, so how does this sounds like India and Pakistan aren't responsible enough to keep their weapons in check and they'll shoot each other?
No, I'm saying that India wants to invade Pakistan.
Yeah, they're not responsible to stay within their boundaries, right?
I mean, like, states are realists, so they would like to invade others. I don't want states to invade others, so I propose to a mechanism in which one state will not invade the other.
Okay. I'm going to run a little bit of prep. I'll just keep it running. Starting now.
Okay.
Stop prep. I got 3:30 remaining. Let me just send out the file. Oh, jeez. It's not sending very well, sorry. It's sent. The order's going to be a one-off case. Case order is going to be the framing stuff, and then the solvency, and then miscalc, and then terror.
Framework solvency miscalc terror.
Yeah.
So it's sent?
It's sent. Do you guys not have it? Let me y'all get it.
Okay, I'm good.
Alright. Cool. Again, one-off case. You good? The AF's appeal to cellular morality is itself governed by a system of cellular nuclearism that denies its own colonial lines from narratives of progress. This exceptionalist narrative culminates in massive structural lines of extinction. This determines the calculus used to judge this debate. That's John C. 14. The most devastating impact of the Cold War has been experienced by the indigenous nations of North America. The far western regions provide dumping and testing ground outside the most side of most American citizens. Intended that psychological cost of nuclearization can be foisted exclusively on the indigenous people, and environmental racism can be seen as another form of sexual violence precisely because they're violating your native bodies are also violated. Kawanakan argues that the reproduction and reinforcement empire is spreading on native lands and the bodies. The call is an ongoing process in which settlers seek to eliminate and replace indigenous structure into every aspect of U.S. society. Cellular nuclearism refers to ways in which cellular nuclearism and the logic of elimination functions as nuclearism, the progress narrative to justify the elimination of the indigenous population, and the absolute utilitarian framework erases genocide as the school. This coalesces cellular desire away from a confrontation with genocide towards cellular futurity. That's Dali 16. A key metaphor of the cellular future is extinction. This allows death of the cellular to be constructed as compared to the elimination of indigenous people, or the end of humanity extinction. A metaphor of anything that enables survival and allows cellular to avoid retroacting with the disestablishment of cellular colonial power structures. Settlers try to imagine their demise in a way that reassures the paradox of their founding ideology. Decolonization is something even if it's invoked, the quasi-biological extinction offers settlers a chance to consider and disavow their demise as they consider it, and then disavow the violence of their origins. The fear of looming annihilation serves as a powerful ideological function in the cellular community, working to foster racial solidarity, suppress dissent and solid legitimate violence against the indigenous population, who are far more at risk of extermination of the settlers who fear them. And narratives of cellular extinction are actual ideological mystification, obscuring and brutal inequality of the full frontier behind a white vulnerability. Biological origin extinction narratives rely on conscious limits between the cellular and the human. The human. Their discourse on idle practice describes a racist, colonialist, and nuclear oppression in which other nations or other countries are artificially denying nuclear weapons because they were less civilized. That's Gauss 99. Westerners when nuclear weapons are represents that theirs are a problem, whereas ours are not. The dominant course to stabilize the system of nuclear apartheid and Western ideology within a broad system of colonialism and post-colonial discourse that constructs a world in terms of the series of binary opposition that produce the Orient as a mirror image of the West, where we are rational and disciplined. They are the impulsive and emotional, more subtle Orientalist ideology. Years of Western discourse on nuclear proliferation is ideological. It makes the simultaneous ownership by making power the absence in third world countries seem natural, while problematizing attempts such countries as India, Pakistan, and Iraq to acquire these weapons. And vote Nick as an affirmation of alter life, an embodied materiality of investment and vulnerability that forges relationships of care through a decolonial refusal of institutional violence. This must begin with calling forth complicity that makes this debate possible and prioritizing the unspoken violence that coheres fantasies of techno-visual subjectivity. This changes the question of debate from political intervention to nuclear policy to everyday acts of survivance that craft new modes of sociality from its ashes. That's Murphy 17. Why does that for researcher in the elite citizens obscure support systems that allow nobody bodies to appear solo units if we accept that embodiment does not provide a respite from power that we might provide alternative genealogy for ICSD colonial embodiment might be embracing Finland's anti-colonial new humanity which requires destroying the version of human history of violence have created. Rerouting requires considering the question of what has to be seized, rebuilt, and dismantled to make room for decolonial potentials. The individualized bodies given by Western neoliberal structures such as containers of rights is in need of dismantling decolonial possibility re-theorizing life with and against the techno-scientific for policy with and against somebody learn from and propagate politics and the toggle between violence that have happened and the need to undo them. And nonetheless, we call this alter life a state of having been altered by violence that is capacity to become something else. Alter life is not waiting for the apocalypse. Apocalypse have already happened. Livable worlds continue being snatched away. Alter life is about an understanding of one's of the researcher and kinship with belonging to politics and care. That becomes a terror dualist coded by colonial gaze as empty, unproductive, and need of capitalist possession. Refusal is an invitation to create new research questions. And on the case, on framing, genocide renders the utilitarian calculus impossible. Genocide flips the scale so that every calculus after murdering millions of people will come to the conclusion in favor of the settlers who are still alive, which means this ethical framework can only ever conclude in favor of white life. Instead, you should flip and weigh the whole history of set call against their impacts. Appealing to neocon authors approve their model of debate can only produce bootleggers who become the next Karl Rove. Ignore any random distinctions because they act to hide their investments in genocide by appealing to white notions of tech over truth. And their reading of Antonian ignores the textures of colonial violence that exists within the anti-nuclear, anti-war movements and normalizes racial violence. That's fully 15. While noting commitment of African American activists to linking the nuclear disarm with the fight against racism, Antony reveals how the racism impeded the expression of that commitment. Black women are continually rebuffing the Women's International League, organizing of the 82 Central Park rally to battle the assumption that black women distinct to black Asian and participants in the walk for disarmament. Antony's near exclusive focus on the movement to abolition nuclear weapons has a fetishizing them, removing from Cold War context. While Antony repeatedly mentions colonialism, it appears more as a word in the list for the concept undergoing announced. Antony's advances naive understanding of the nature of the state. Antony neglects to mention that this weapon build-out occurred in the shadow of Israel's unquestioned right to be armed to the hilt with nuclear weapons. The way the nuclear threat from the U.S. has always been part of the armament smorgasbord, ranging from napalm to drones. Is delighted with this narrative of progress and enlightenment. And Tony ends up celebrating the international politics of the U.S. state, Catholic Cardinal state, on 17. Nuclear disarm trades off with a broader focus on militarism, state violence. It enables co-option and interest convergence and causes a shift to conventional war. This card answers every impact argument they'll make. That's Warren 86. It's interesting to focus on so much on nuclear disarm. Nuclear weapons are only about one part of the war system, but the driving force behind WMD is the statism, not the weapons. The power of conventional weapons has been increased. Conventional war can kill hundreds of millions. Even involved nuclear weapons or dismantle the capacity to create to produce new weapons that would remain. CBWs could easily pose as great a threat as nuclear weapons. So people realize getting rid of nukes is not enough. But I think that concentrating on weapons should be the first stage of weapons against war. People get caught with immediate demands. The peace movement makes cessation of nuclear testing a major demand within the state. That with the result that the partial test ban took wind out of the movement. Another stance is that there will not be around to worry about poverty or sexism. There is no reason why buying time is best achieved through a narrow concern about nukes. Another argument is that the wider alliance can be built by focusing on nukes. The problem is reliance on the lowest common denominator, making it difficult to achieve anything more than pious declarations. Concentrating on nukes encourages a technical fix such as the nuclear freeze evidence is overwhelming that arms negotiations hold little potential for changing the war system with respect to popular pressure. Examples show the limitation of social movements of making demands which are too narrow. Narrow on the miscount. There's no impact scenario. Every scenario is a joke. That's paragraph 19. The JM attack destroy the myth that such action could lead to a nuclear conflict. Threats have been taken more seriously than warranted. New Delhi remained unmoved. Reality in Pakistan has a professional streamlined domain structures. Despite threats to Pakistan are realistic. The IDS doctrine is based on restraint. Pakistan knew their country will be obliterated. Those response excuse such rhetoric. And No risk of war or escalation, even response to terrorism. That's Panther-Cod attacks proof. That's Modi 16. In relation to India, Pakistan is hard to miss the language of respect and restraint in recent diplomatic exchanges. Instead of Muslim, there is a growing trust for Pakistan. Pakistan has promised to cooperate against the Panther terror attack in India. For no reason down Pakistan. Panther-Cod give me hopes it has been handled remarkably well by both. There are rational actors on both sides. People now understand serious war escalate. I didn't read the Mueller stuff.
Okay, ready for cross?
Yeah.
3 minutes, time starting now. So if India theoretically, hypothetically, maybe had an unstable and bad leader, how would you criticize that person?
I mean, they're bad because they're. I would critique Modi for being like a nationalist. That's probably bad.
Okay, why isn't that racist? Because you're criticizing India.
Because I'm criticizing India, I'm indicting the actions in which they're doing. Now, the argument is that like I'm not only critiquing Modi in the process, I'm critiquing like every nationalist movement out there. Well, plenty of nationalist movements.
Why is that incommensurate with the AF?
Well, the AF very explicitly only targets India, Pakistan, not the Western states.
So the problem is that we didn't target the United States?
Not just the United States, like the West is a very big
We
place.
have to target the
like,
West in order to have a debate round?
Yeah, you should probably, yes. Well,
Okay.
It's not in order to have a debate round, but
let's
in order
talk
to have
about
a
utilitarian
good and
frameworks.
helpful argument, yeah.
Why does utilitarianism have to be defined in terms of settler movements?
What do you mean they have to be defined in terms of settler movements?
Like before like transnational communication was possible, do you think that Indians could have had a utilitarian perspective?
Wait, what does that mean?
In absence of the West, could util exist for Indians?
I mean, like, that doesn't answer the question here because, like, I mean, util obviously exists, but util is not necessarily a good thing because you gotta realize that even in India, there are instances of genocide. Like, the entire partition process saw genocide on both sides.
All right, let's talk about the reading of Intondi.
Yep.
So you talk about why Intondi says black folks should stick to black issues. Could you give an example of what this card means? Like, this card seems to be very hyper-specific. Like, what in particular is it referring to?
Well, it talks about how that they think, oh, well, this is the Foley piece of evidence. Foley
Actually, first of all, which piece of Intondi's work does Foley respond to?
Well, it critiques the entirety of, like, what type of literature that Intondi has been forefronting. So
could Intondi possibly read this literature and improve their own work?
I mean, like...
Is it possible?
Theoretically, but this is an indict of like what Intondi has written.
Cool. So let's talk about why disarmament. Actually, you talk about the appeal to settler morality. Why does the a better question. Is progress possible?
Progress? We say that progress is not possible under the nation-state system because the nation-state system only seeks to paint narratives of progress so they can justify this continuing existence. And because the nation-state system gains coherence from like genocide, ongoing genocide, and like replacement. That's how it gains coherence.
Sure. So what replacement is going on in India or Pakistan?
What do you mean? What replacement is going on in India and Pakistan? Like we'll say that like the fact that India after all these years elected still not white supremacy.
Whoa.
By a nationalist demonstrates that like overall progress has not been seen.
Okay, I see.
In the politics.
I'll start prep. What's the status of the K?
I guess it's unconditional.
Okay. Can the K result in the affirmative? Is it a floating pick?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I guess it could result in like nuclear arsenals being interrogated,
Do you defend that it will result in nuclear arsenals being eliminated?
Actually, let's go with it won't.
Okay. .243 used.
You send me something?
Yes.
Okay.
Doc sent. It's just one card.
Where is it gonna be on?
It's going to be on the link level of the K.
Okay.
Order's going to be ACK.
I'll let you know when I get it. Is there an order on case?
It's going to be solvency in your order and then framework stuff.
Okay.
So like his order, except for the first thing, is going to be the last.
Can you just like do that over again?
Yeah, so let me just look at what he called it. Okay, so the stuff he called framework is going to be last. It's going to be solvency, miscalc, terror, and then framework. And then the K.
Wait, this card you sent, is it under the same name?
Sorry?
It's the same, is it?
It's called the same, the
Uh,
doc's the same thing.
Let me just make sure this is the right one real quick.
Yeah, it should be just one card under AR.
Let's see. Nope. Don't have it.
Could I have the doc?
Re-download it again. Oh, never mind. I don't know how to click on it apparently.
So solvency, miscalc,
Terror, framework.
or K.
You good?
Yes.
Awesome. India's developing counterforce capabilities to first strike Pakistan. That's not going to work. They're not going to get all of Pakistan's nuclear weaponry. And Pakistan fires back. That causes Indian retaliation. Millions of people die in this conflict. The best way to stop this is by stopping the Indian overcalculation. That they can take out all of Pakistan's weaponry with their nuclear strike and end the war quickly. They say shift to conventional war, but no, the conventional war is the status quo. We see border conflicts all the time. India has a date with Pakistan because India doesn't think it can decisively win, especially because international pressure prevents a protracted conflict. But with counterforce striking will not be protracted. They say miscalc, but is wrong. But the card doesn't assume counterforce hypersonics. They say no risk of terror, but their evidence is prefer our analysis on the current security dilemma. Now, framework. First, turn on the usual stuff. Turn usual forces to justify why they are bad, which is good. Learning to justify why impacts are bad. Users are a critical thing, which outweighs in the case because it's more portable skill. 2, turn the usual to be at least problem frame because these forces focus on real world education, suffering powers to try and solve it in the best possible way. 3, turn use to tell solution problem because they said pain is intrinsic bad, which also impacts the game, which means that K framework is going to presume the app and util in the first place. 4, their characterization of util is a result of their own preconceptions of utilitarianism. Utilitarianism can exist outside of their own framework and what they've predetermined for usual. For example, usual existing for Indians, despite what other people have used to justify. It's a tool, not something bad or good. They say just create the next Karl Rove, but Karl Rove is one example. It's not real evidence. They say Antony bad, but Antony probably is accounting for this because our evidence is from 2015. They cite their evidence is from our evidence is from 2018. Theirs is from 2015. Now the K. First, top-level arguments turn. They force they talk about the only one of the ways to not link to the K is by talking about the West and white people essentially in order to not engage in their K. The problem is they force me to engage with have to talk about white people constantly in order to engage in this debate space in the first place, which is why their method should be rejected overall. This is very clear from cross-examination. They said that I have to be criticizing the Western world in order to fit under their critique, which is bad because we should be able to discuss the rest of the world without constantly having to talk about the West. Next, on the link level, they say that it's imperial to cellular morality, but first of all, this card just impacts out to the Cold War, and also Antonio would turn this in terms of decolonial movements. Also, it talks about, quote, every aspect of U.S. society. Obviously, this card does not refer to the AF. Next, they say mutual erases genocide, but symbolic death and literal death aren't incommensurate. This is a link of emission, just like the discussing the West stuff. Next, they say discourse in Indo-Pak is less civilized. No, the U.S. shouldn't have nukes either. The perm will shield the link to this, but regardless, no link. I'm not Western discourse. I've been in India. I'm not the U.S. security apparatus. Next, they vote but perm. Rejecting the individualized body isn't incommensurate with the plan, which is what their solvency advocate says. Next, they say the apocalypse already happens, but this doesn't assume literal death. Embracing symbolic death is commensurate with the plan, but we should also look at the millions of people and my family who are going to die if an Indo-Pak war were actually to happen. Next, progress is possible, and cross-examination was laughable. They don't have real warrants beside contingent circumstances, which are of course contingent, which means perm. Do the F and do the K because and endorse the K's epistemology because it will result in the F, and you should prioritize people's lives first. Next, their strategy in the form of effective the card that I sent linked to the planet strikes India cellular colonial aggression in Kashmir. According to 19 Indian road to Kashmir autonomy, the Article 35A gives right to file permanent residence able to own property of Kashmir region. Indians can drive out local populations, move as a cellular colonial project in Pakistan. Next, is framework. Way the fiat in a concept plan against fiat impacts the gain, and the ones that have net causes roll out determine what the plan is a good idea. A, fair, arbitrary fairness with the one state. There's even parts of the one state problematized. B, developing education warns about nuclear arsenals, the impact drives strongmen, brings together broader correlation challenges. C, pillars, and no one theory can display all files. They have to explain why Trump plays terrorists, for example, or why Pakistan threatens India.
Wait, can you explain that last part?
Starting prep. The last one is pluralism. One theory can't explain every single form of violence, and then I cited IR situations which you can't explain.
And what were those situations?
Those were A, why Trump places tariffs on China, or B, why the Indo-Pak crisis is going on.
Okay. The only perms are perm do both and perm do the app with context with the idea of dollar, right?
Yeah, the small G.
Were there any independent voters on the K-flow?
Yes, just the top level stuff about you forcing me to talk about the Western world.
Okay. What's the real world education keystone?
On what part?
The solvents, the framing page.
Developing education about nuclear arsenals and their impacts drives disarmament and brings together coalitions that can challenge military doctrines. like the Bryant stuff.
Great. Order is going to be K and then case.
New card?
Nah. Case is just going to be the, I guess you could put the framing debate on the, on the top. That's probably going to be what's happening first. And then the K proper, and then case only on solvency. Is anybody not ready? Okay. You should prioritize settled colonialism in this debate because this is the only because it's able to account for all the violence they've completely that they've identified. They say like this utilitarian calculus is not by any means measurable because we've already indicted their concept of utilitarian calculus will erase genocide. They give a very blippy answer that Indians use utilitarian calculus. That's not responsive to the argument. The argument is that utilitarian calculus would render genocide would never be evaluated because but this is like simple math. As genocide occurs and people die more and more, like the population affected becomes less and less because they are dead. So that means that you have to weigh the entire history of settled colonialism against the affirmative. Look, this is actually more simple than you realize. The fact is that look, genocide happens, more and more people die, which means that group becomes more and more of a minority, which means in utilitarian calculus afterwards, you just like draw the line there, and you do utilitarian calculus afterward. There's just less people, so that argument in genocide will just matter less. Which means you have to evaluate this, and also like the Foley evidence is very clear about their Intonian evidence is unable to account for this because this is simple for the matter that the only defense of Intoni says that this is afterwards that like Intoni probably accounted for it. Like there's no evidence to indicate this in the first place. And B is that like Intoni obviously hasn't because this argument specifically indicts that Intoni's focus on the anti-war movement, anti-nuclear movement as not critiquing the settled colonial structure as a whole. So that's going to feed the link on the K page, but also disproves that second. And also there are examples about how supposedly like it can't account for things like Trump's sanctions on China and like Indo-Pak War. Indo-Pak War happened because of the Indian partition, which happened because of colonialism by the British in China, and U.S. is trying to enforce sanctions on China because of U.S. imperialism so that they can continue dominating the global war. This is colonialism. This is like abundantly clear on the K proper. The Axe Disarm Project was wedded to a settler humanitarian project at the level of representation and geopolitical calculations. Settler nuclearity emerged as an epistemic and ontological phenomenon prior to the Axe representational flashpoints of conflict in Indo-Pak. Nuclearism is not an event, but an ongoing structure as per O'Shaughnessy. Yet the Axe attempt to narrate nuclear elimination from the framework of the nation state invisibilizes the history of nuclear war as constitutive of the symbolic register of humanity. If we win a link, it means that you should understand them as prior the imaginative fiction of the 1AC because they determine the
cognitive framework by which you, as a judge, understand the research model of the 1AC. Even if we lose that cognitive framework of certain clarity, means that the app becomes the affective grace rules of the consolidation of the imperial lens. We have very clear linked arguments. Oh, actually, quick thing, you should evaluate this as like we're indicting the research model. They can't perm out any of this because this is an indict of how they participated in the research. Link arguments. Number one is we're going for 2 links. Number one is the util link is that we already did the work above. That's the fully evidence and Dali evidence, which means that they erase genocide. Just because people can util doesn't mean it's necessarily good. And we're indicting the process of using utilitarian calculus in IR. This is what we're indicting. And also, second is the nuclear apartheid stuff. That's the Gustafson piece of evidence, which means that the framing that in educational spaces in which you constantly frame when you constantly critique merely only the Orient, but rather not the larger of the West, allows for the West to continue to. And there's 2 impacts to this argument. Is that number one is the co-optation argument, which says that the West continues to co-opt your narrative to prove that. Yeah, look at the East. They were so savage and irrational. We must continue to police and make sure that they're listening to us. And also, some B is that number one is B is that the complicity argument, which you don't interrogate rational participation. The term doesn't make any sense. The argument, the term, we're not forcing. The argument is not that you have to talk. You don't talk about the West so you lose. No, that's not the argument. The argument is that you don't interrogate how the West interacts with your politics, which is going to compromise your politics because they're able to render it useless. Yeah, on the line by line. Again, the permutation doesn't make sense. These links are to their performance. You can't perm out of a performance. This is not merely methods debate. These are indicts to what you have done in this round. You can't undo what you've done in the prior before. And also, this stuff about this. And also, their response to the apocalyptic rhetoric stuff is completely useless because they actually that's another link because their emphasis on biological death always prioritizes those in power. And even if it always prioritizes the settlers in place because this is the stuff I talked about early on about how genocide is getting constantly erased because because they were trying to draw an equivalence point between settler life and humanism. They don't account for the fact that they keep trying to discount for symbolic death because no, you have to emphasize the uniqueness of symbolic death as extinction because it's a erasure of culture, a way of life that is functional extinction. The only thing left, on top level, the colonizers are dead. So you're unable to that's which proves that they're focused on the apocalypse and massive amount of ongoing biological death is a link because it focuses more on the settlers. They say, and also here the link there doesn't make sense. If you read the 1AR evidence, it just says that India is settler colonial. The plan doesn't actually do it. It doesn't mention nukes, and also the plan also doesn't stop India from being settler colonial. And also this is going to feed the argument about that doesn't make any sense. Look, even if you don't evaluate on a pre-fiat and the research model debate, they're still gonna lose on the case debate because they completely mischaracterized the shifty stat. That's the Morton piece of evidence. The Morton piece of evidence is not just about conventional weapons writ large. It specifically talks about the proliferation of a chemical and biological weapon. Now, the 1AR has been completely absent of actual utilitarian framing in the first place, or any weighing mechanism in the first place. So, the Morton evidence is very specific about how the removal of nuclear weapons means that India and Pakistan, nations such as India and Pakistan, still want to deter each other or have a leg over each other, so they'll develop their chemical and biological weapons in order to attack each other, or even the hypersonic gliders, the stuff they talk about. That's going to lead to massive amounts of death, and yeah, it's going to outweigh.
120. I'm starting now.
Actually, never mind.
be AC with the last bit they said. K starting on framework, then terms, and then link analysis overall. Oh, after the framework is going to be the alt stuff. So AC starting with the stuff they just ended off with. Then I'm going to go do the K starting with the framework, then the alt, like the perm stuff, and then the links. You good?
Yep.
Good? First, extend the case in specific response to them. Yo, they don't have any defense to India counter striking Pakistan in 2023, failing, getting nuked, and then nuking Pakistan back for it. My scenario was completely conceded. The fact that there's conventional war afterwards is non-unique. I've already argued that, but it's also going to be distinct from the conflict scenario that I described because it will be longer and drawn out, and international actors have a chance to check, whereas India thinks it can very quickly and rapidly first strike Pakistan and have the war over quickly. That's why the war is going to happen, and 125 million people are going to immediately die. That is the only contextualization in this debate, and they're like shaky analysis over the card saying stuff and others about weapons should not stand up against it. Now, the K. First, on the framework level, it's almost been completely conceded. First, is fairness, they arbitrarily moved the framework to the 1AC because there's infinite parts of the 1AC they could problematize. You should allow us to focus on the fiated consequences of the plan against the impacts of the K that AFNet caused. They go for this entire framing about how it's a question of our research model inside the debate, but we've already made multiple arguments for why you should also focus on the impacts of the fiated plan, which means that if the impacts of the plan are good, the plan is also probably epistemologically good. Next, we say that developing educational awareness about nuclear arsenals is also good. The Antony stuff, we say pluralism, they can't explain every theory of violence. Their response to this is, okay, but we can explain these two that you particularly isolated, that's fine, but I can give you 1,000 other examples, such as why Britain and France went to war in the 1100s, for example, for why they can't explain every single theory in the world, which is why pluralism is good. Now, on the Perm specifically, the Perm do both, and Perm do the epistemology, do the alpha epistemology of the next should solve their entire concerns because their question is only about our research basis, but they only specifically criticize that we are criticizing India and criticizing and using Utah. We say that those are not intrinsic to the affirmative insofar as that we just say that people dying is bad. That does not presume Utah, it just presumes that death itself is bad, and we'll deal with that debate later. And we also made an argument that the Perm would shield the link because we could say, yes, we will criticize all the other nations, but also we are criticizing India and Pakistan. They've conceded that these two things should not be incommensurate, and we should be able to criticize bad people who are in power, like Modi in the first place. Next, on the link level, they say that the card I read is incorrect. Or actually, on the util level, specifically, they say using util and IR is bad, but they've conceded that util is only a tool, and it depends on how it is used. For example, it would be used outside of the context they gave, and it would be completely fine. They are co-opting my narrative of what util is in for their framework. Next, in all of their link story lies on the idea of cellular death inside of the United States. They've conceded that progress is possible, and you should vote for progress for millions of Indians who would die with K happen. Next, they say apocalypse is bad, but again, that all relies on analysis of cellular death inside the U.S. that we are specific to India and Pakistan. Again, they should immediately have zero link to the case because they are all talking about the U.S. We are Indo-Pak specific. We should be able to discuss our own culture inside of this debate round and not forever be pigeonholed to discussing white people, which is why the K turns itself and you should be voting out.
Good round.